My hand hovered over the doorbell. It's a strange feeling to stand in front of the door of the house where you grew up and be afraid to ring the bell. It's as if I'm not a daughter, but a saleswoman trying to sell the owners a vacuum cleaner. I took a deep breath and pressed the button. A familiar melody rang out from inside the house, the same one my mother had chosen when I was 12. Back then, she still listened to my opinion. The door opened almost immediately. Standing in the doorway was my mother, Merritt Haverhill, impeccably dressed even on a regular Tuesday evening, with that trademark smile of hers that never reached her eyes. "Taylor," she said in a tone that was a mixture of surprise and slight annoyance. "We weren't expecting you tonight." "Hi, Mom." I tried to smile, though I could already feel the muscles in my face tensing. "I thought I'd stop by to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Is it a bad time?" It was a rhetorical question. To my mother, I was never on time. "We're just having dinner." She paused, clearly weighing whether she could just close the door in my face. "Well, come in, since you're here." I stepped into the foyer, where nothing had changed since my last visit 2 months ago. The same immaculately arranged photo frames on the wall. The family portrait, where we all look like the perfect American family. My mother, my stepfather Shayton, my sister Willow, and me. I'm 15 in that photo, and it's the last time my mother insisted I participate in a family photo shoot. Then the problems started, and I disappeared from the walls of this house as if I had never existed. "Who's there, Merritt?" came the voice of Shayton Pickering, my stepfather, from the dining room. "Taylor's here," my mother replied, sounding as if she were announcing a visit from the tax inspector. I followed my mother into the dining room. Shayton and my younger sister Willow were sitting at the table. When she saw me, Willow raised her eyebrows slightly but said nothing. At 18, she had already mastered the art of passive aggression, a trait she had inherited from my mother. "Good evening," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Taylor?" Shayton nodded at me, not taking his eyes off his steak. "Joining us?" It was less a question than a test. Shayton knew I'd been a vegetarian for 3 years, another item on his list of my disappointments. "No thanks, I already ate," I lied, even though my stomach was growling. "I just stopped by to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I know Thursday will be busy." "That's very nice of you," Shayton said dryly. "How's work? Still at that store?" There was so much contempt in his voice, as if I worked not as a salesperson at Best Buy, but at least as a stripper in a seedy club. "Yes, same place," I said, sitting down on the edge of an empty chair. "I was recently promoted to senior consultant." "Wonderful," my mother snorted. "Willow, tell your sister about your acceptance." Willow glanced at me with a look of slight embarrassment. "I got into Stanford," she said quietly. "Preliminary acceptance." "Wow," I smiled sincerely. "Congratulations, that's amazing." And it really was amazing. Willow had always been a smart girl, unlike me, who had dropped out of college after my freshman year. Of course, Mom never mentioned that it was because she and Shayton had decided to stop paying for my education after I switched my major from business administration to creative writing. "Not like some people," Mom interjected, sipping her wine. "Shayton, remember how the dean called us personally to tell us that Taylor was dropping out?" "Mom," Willow said quietly, "let's not do this today." I was grateful to my sister for trying, but I knew it was useless. Once Mom started, there was no stopping her. "I just want your sister to realize what opportunities she missed," Mom continued. "She had a chance to be someone, and now what? She's selling phones to teenagers." I clenched my teeth, holding back the harsh words that were about to spill out. Same as always. I come in peace and leave feeling like I've been put through a meat grinder. It's my own fault. I knew how this visit would end. "I didn't come here to hear this again," I said, trying to stay calm. "I just wanted to wish you a happy holiday." "Do you have any plans for Thanksgiving?" Mom and Shayton exchanged quick glances. "Actually, yes," Shayton replied, dabbing his lips with a napkin. "We're going to Golden Pines Resort. We booked the presidential suite for the entire holiday weekend." "Oh, that sounds great," I said, looking at Willow. "It'll be fun." "Yeah," she said, looking away. "Too bad you can't come." "Am I invited?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. Mom snorted. "Taylor, it's a family trip." "And I'm not family?" You know what I mean, Mom rolled her eyes. It's an expensive resort and we can't, well, you know. Pay for my stay there? I finished for her. Or are you embarrassed to be seen with me in decent company? Don't start, Shayton warned. We don't have to take you everywhere, especially considering your behavior last time. He was referring to last year's Thanksgiving, when I had the misfortune of getting into an argument with his business partner about politics. In Shayton's opinion, I had ruined a potential deal for him. Of course, I said, rising from my chair. Sorry to bother you, I'll be going now. Taylor, Willow said, also standing up. Stay, we can watch a movie or… Willow has class tomorrow morning, my mother said sharply. She needs to study for her exams. But Mom, don't argue with me, Willow. Taylor is leaving. I headed for the door, feeling a familiar burning sensation growing inside me. A mixture of hurt, anger, and shame. Why did I even come? What did I hope to hear? Taylor, we missed you. Of course you're coming with us. In the hallway, I heard Shayton say to Willow, after the resort, we could stop by that college town and show you the campus. It's only an hour's drive from Golden Pines. Can Taylor come with us? Willow's voice was quiet, almost pleading. She'd love to. Willow, Mom said sharply, your sister made her choice. She decided to go her own way, despite everything we've done for her. She dropped out of college, lives who knows where, works a low-paying job. Do you really want to follow her example? I froze at the door, clenching my fist so hard that my nails dug into my palms. But she's my sister, Willow objected. So what? I heard my mother get up from the table. She disappoints us all the time. Remember when she didn't come to your graduation? Or when she missed Shayton's birthday? She only thinks about herself. I didn't go to Willow's graduation because I was sick with a fever of 104 that day. And I missed Shayton's birthday because I was working a double shift to save up for photography classes. But who cared? I turned and walked back into the dining room. That's not fair, I said, feeling my voice shake. You know perfectly well why I missed my prom. I called you from the emergency room. Oh, here she is. Mom smiled her most venomous smile. Eavesdropping as usual? I wasn't eavesdropping, you're loud enough. See, Willow? Mom turned to her younger daughter. Always ready for a confrontation. No respect. Respect? I felt something break inside me. What about respect for me? You're planning a family trip and you didn't even think to invite me. You talk about me like I'm some kind of failure just because I don't live by your rules. You are a failure, my mother shouted, and for a second, the room fell silent. Look at yourself, 23 years old, and what have you achieved? Merit, Shayton warned, glancing at Willow, who had turned pale. No, let her hear it. My mother was unstoppable. We gave you everything, an education, opportunities, connections. And what did you do? You threw it all away for some silly fantasy about a creative career. And now you come here and expect us to drive you around to expensive resorts? I don't expect anything, I replied quietly. I just wanted to spend the holidays with my family. Family? Mom laughed, and it was a terrible, barking laugh. You refused to be part of this family when you went against our wishes. You're no longer welcome here. I looked at her and didn't recognize her. Was this my mother? The same woman who used to read me bedtime stories and kiss my skinned knees? Mom! Willow exclaimed, jumping up from her chair. You can't talk to her like that. I can and I will, Mom snapped. It's time Taylor learned that actions have consequences. I backed toward the door, feeling tears welling up in my eyes. Not here, not in front of them. You know what? I said, surprised at how calm my voice sounded. Enjoy your vacation. I hope you have fun. I turned and walked quickly toward the exit. I heard Willow calling me from behind, but I didn't stop. In the driveway, I breathed in the cool November air, trying to calm down. My car was parked at the curb, an ancient Honda Civic, another disappointment of mine. Shayton had once said that decent people don't drive junk like that. Apparently, I was indecent in every way. I was about to get into the car when I noticed that the light in Shayton's office was on, and the window was slightly open. The office was on the first floor, next to the garage. I don't know what made me go to the window. Anger, resentment, or just an irrational desire to hurt myself again. But I went up and looked inside. There was an open laptop on Shaitan's desk. The screen was turned so that I could see the open page, the Golden Pines Resort website. I saw photos of luxurious rooms, swimming pools, and restaurants. The place looked like heaven on earth, exactly what my mother thought I didn't deserve. At that moment, the front door opened, and I quickly stepped away from the window. Willow ran out onto the porch, looking around for me. "Taylor," she called. "Wait." I froze by my car. "Forgive her." Willow ran up to me. "She didn't mean it. You know how she is." "I know," I smiled sadly. "That's why I left you." "I wanted you to come with us," Willow whispered. "I really did." "I know, sweetie." I hugged my sister. "But this is their trip, not yours. You can't decide." "It's not fair." "Life isn't fair," I shrugged. "Listen, you better go back inside before Mom comes looking for you." "Willow!" My mom's voice came from inside the house. "Come back right now." "Go on." I pushed my sister toward the house. "Call me sometime, okay?" Willow nodded, hugged me again, and ran toward the house. I got into the car but didn't start the engine. Anger boiled inside me. "You're not welcome here anymore." Those words rang in my ears like a slap in the face. For years I had tried to live up to their expectations, and when I couldn't, I became persona non grata. And then it hit me. I knew how to get revenge. It was crazy, but my emotions overwhelmed my reason. I slipped out of the car and crept back to the office window. The family had returned to the dining room. I could hear their voices from the other side of the house. With trembling hands, I carefully opened the window wider and climbed over the windowsill. Shaitan's laptop was still open on the resort's website. I quickly checked. He was logged into the booking system. The screen displayed all the details of their trip. A presidential suite for 4 nights, starting on the Wednesday evening before Thanksgiving. The total cost made me gasp. $5,000. That was more than I earned in 2 months. I saw that all of Shaitan's information was saved in the profile: his name, address, phone number, and credit card information. I hesitated for a second. What I was about to do was wrong, maybe even illegal. But my mother's words still burned inside me. Making up my mind, I clicked on Manage Reservation. The system asked for a password, but Shaitan, like many busy people, used the browser's password-saving feature. I didn't have to type anything. The site immediately displayed the booking details and the cancel option. My heart was beating so hard that it seemed to echo throughout the house. "Cancel reservation?" the website asked. My finger hovered over the touchpad. I took a deep breath and clicked, "Yes." Another window appeared. "Please select a reason for cancellation." I selected Change of Plans and clicked Confirm. "Your reservation has been successfully canceled. Your refund will be processed within 7 business days." I closed all the windows, made sure my laptop looked the same as before I had touched it, and slipped back out the window. It wasn't until I was in the car that I realized I had done all this on autopilot, as if in a trance. I started the engine, pulled out onto the road, and only after a few blocks did I allow myself to pull over to the side of the road. I was shaking. What had I done? I had canceled a family trip out of revenge. I had used Shaitan's personal information. If they found out it was me... But another part of me, the part that had endured years of humiliation and neglect, felt a bitter satisfaction. Let them find out what it's like when your plans are ruined. Let them feel just a fraction of the pain they had caused me, time and time again. I wiped away the unwelcome tears and drove home to the tiny apartment I shared with a friend on the outskirts of Fremont. The adrenaline gradually subsided, and I was replaced by the realization of what I had done. I knew it would come back to haunt me. I knew my family would never forgive me, but at that moment, clutching the steering wheel with trembling hands, I couldn't bring myself to regret what I had done. The morning began with a piercing ring. I struggled to open my eyes and fumbled for the phone on the nightstand. The clock read 7:30, too early for my shift, which started at 11. The screen lit up with Shaitan's name. My heart sank. They already know. I dismissed the call and buried my face in the pillow. The phone rang again. Shaitan. Disconnect. 3rd ring. Now it was my mom. I turned off the sound and rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling. My own stupidity deafened me. What had I done? An impulsive act committed in a fit of anger would now turn into a real nightmare. My phone vibrated. A message from Willow. "Taylor, what's going on? Mom and Shayton are freaking out. Something happened with their hotel reservation. They think it's you." I groaned. Of course they would think of me first. It couldn't be a mere coincidence. First I found out about the trip, and then the next morning the reservation mysteriously disappeared. I started to type a reply, but stopped. What could I say? Lie and pretend I had nothing to do with it, or confess and repent? There was a knock on the bedroom door. "Taylor, are you awake?" My roommate, Zoe, sounded alarmed. "There's a man here asking for you. He says he's your stepfather." I sat up abruptly. "Is Shayton here? Did he come to my house?" "Tell him I'm in the shower," I shouted, feverishly pulling on my jeans and sweater. "I'll be out in 5 minutes." "He looks really angry," Zoe warned quietly. "What's going on?" "It's a long story," I said, slipping my feet into my sneakers. "I'm sorry about that." I heard Zoe return to the living room and say something to Shayton. I couldn't make out his reply, but his tone didn't bode well. After quickly combing my hair and washing my face, I took a deep breath and left the bedroom. Shayton stood in the middle of our tiny living room, looking completely out of place. In his perfectly tailored suit and polished shoes, he looked like an alien from another world, a world where people don't live in apartments with cracked plaster and leaky faucets. "Taylor," he said, staring at me, "we need to talk." Zoe shifted awkwardly at the kitchen counter. "I think I'll go," she said, grabbing her bag. "I have a lecture soon anyway." "No, don't," I shook my head. "Shayton and I can talk outside." "No, we'll talk here," Shayton said firmly. "What you did affects the whole family." Zoe glanced at me questioningly. I nodded, and she quickly slipped out the door, leaving us alone. "So," Shayton crossed his arms over his chest, "do you want to explain why the hell you canceled our reservation at Golden Pines?" "I don't know what you're talking about," I tried, even though I knew how unconvincing it sounded. "Don't play games with me." His voice was quiet, but that made it even more frightening. "This morning I received a notification that our reservation had been canceled. Imagine my surprise when the manager told me that the cancellation had been made last night, about an hour after you left our office." "Coincidence," I shrugged, looking away. "Coincidence?" Shayton laughed, but there was no amusement in his laughter. "And the fact that the cancellation was made from my account, from my laptop, is also a coincidence? Do you think I'm an idiot?" I remained silent, staring at the worn carpet beneath my feet. "You know what's interesting?" Shayton continued. "When I tried to rebook, it turned out that all the rooms were already taken. The entire hotel is fully booked for the holidays. And now, your mother, your sister, and I are left without plans for Thanksgiving." "I'm sorry," I said quietly, although I wasn't really sure I meant it. "Sorry?" Shayton took a step toward me, and I instinctively backed away. "Do you even realize what you've done? This isn't just some childish prank. What you did falls under several sections of the criminal code: unauthorized access to personal data, fraud, use of someone else's credit card." "I didn't use your card to make any purchases," I protested. "I just canceled the reservation." "Oh, so now you admit it?" He smirked. "Good. So we can move on to the next question. How are you going to make it right?" "Make it right?" I looked at him in surprise. "But you said all the rooms were booked." "Exactly." Shayton took an envelope out of his jacket's inside pocket and placed it on the coffee table. "But there are other options. For example, Cypress Ridge." I knew that place. It was an even more expensive resort, about 2 hours' drive from Golden Pines. My mother had once mentioned that she dreamed of going there, but even Shayton thought it was too expensive. "And?" I asked cautiously. "I managed to book a royal suite there. It's twice as expensive as Golden Pines, of course." He tapped the envelope with his finger. "Here's the bill. Your share is $3,000. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "3,000? Are you kidding? Where am I going to get that kind of money?" "I don't care," Shayton shrugged. "Sell your car. Take out a loan. Borrow from friends. You have exactly 48 hours to get the money. Otherwise—" He didn't finish his sentence, but the threat hung in the air. "Otherwise what?" I crossed my arms over my chest, trying to hide the trembling. You'll take me to court? Tell Mom I ruined her precious vacation? She already knows, Shayton replied coldly. And believe me, she's far less concerned about the money than I am. She's more upset about the betrayal. His own daughter. He shook his head. You know, Taylor, I always told Merritt there was something wrong with you. Normal people don't do this to their family. Family? I felt a wave of anger rising inside me. Yesterday you told me in no uncertain terms that I was no longer part of your family. And you proved that brilliantly. Shayton headed for the door. 48 hours, Taylor. And one more thing. He turned, holding the door handle. Your mother is so upset she doesn't even want to talk to you. But she asked me to tell you that if you don't fix this, you can forget about Christmas and any family gatherings in the foreseeable future. The door closed behind him, and I collapsed onto the sofa, wrapping my arms around my head. Shayton's threats frightened me, but even more frightening was the thought that my mother would cut me out of her life completely. Despite all her faults, despite how she treated me, she was still my mother. And somewhere deep down, I still craved her approval. My phone vibrated again. A message from Willow. Is Shayton with you? He's really angry. Mom's crying. Please tell him it's all a misunderstanding. What could I say? That I had deliberately broken into Shayton's office and canceled their reservation? That I wanted revenge for years of humiliation and neglect? Or that for a moment I felt powerful, capable of hurting them the way they had hurt me? The front door opened and Zoe returned with 2 cups of coffee. Well, she said, handing me one of the cups. Want to tell me what's going on? I sighed and told her everything. About my visit home, my mother's words, the canceled reservation, and Shayton's ultimatum. Damn, Zoe whistled when I finished. That's pretty extreme. I know. I buried my face in my hands. I ruined everything. But $3,000? Zoe shook her head. That's extortion. You don't have that kind of money. No, I agreed, and I'm not going to pay it. It's their vacation, not mine. Then what are you going to do? I didn't have time to answer before the phone rang again. This time it was Rick, our landlord. Hi, Rick, I said cautiously, answering the call. Taylor. His voice sounded tense. I had a conversation with your stepfather. My heart skipped a beat. What? He said you're moving out soon and would like to terminate the lease on your behalf. What? I jumped up from the couch. That's not true. I'm not moving out. Listen, Rick sighed. I don't want to get involved in family matters, but this guy said that if I don't terminate your lease, I'll have problems with the tax authorities. He mentioned some violations in my tax return. He threatened you? I couldn't believe my ears. Rick, he can't do anything to you. He's bluffing. Maybe, Rick replied, but I don't need any problems. You have 2 weeks to find a new place. I'm sorry, Taylor. He hung up, leaving me in a daze. What happened? Zoe asked, alarmed. Shayton, I managed to say. He made Rick kick me out of the apartment. He can't do that, Zoe exclaimed. Apparently he can, I said, sinking back onto the couch. Rick said I have 2 weeks. Oh my God. Zoe sat down next to me and put her arms around my shoulders. What a terrible man. How could your mother ever marry him? Money, status, stability, I shrugged. After my father left, she was desperate. Shayton seemed like the perfect choice, a successful businessman, a widower, willing to take in a woman with 2 children. And since then, he's made your life hell. Not just him, I said quietly. Mom, too. She changed after the wedding. She became colder, more demanding, especially towards me. We were silent for a moment. Zoe finished her coffee and stood up. Listen, I really have to get to class, but we'll figure something out with your place, okay? I have a few ideas. Thanks, I smiled weakly. But don't worry, I'll find something. After Zoe left, I sat there for a long time, staring into space. Shayton's actions didn't surprise me. He was always ruthless when it came to revenge. But the fact that my mother supported him in this, it hurt. I had to go to work, but I couldn't bring myself to move. Finally, I dialed my manager's number and asked for the day off due to family circumstances. He reluctantly agreed, warning me that it would be the last time. I spent the whole day calling friends and acquaintances, looking for temporary accommodation. But this was Fremont, a small town with a limited rental market and high prices. By evening, I realized that there were practically no options. At 10 p.m., I got a message from Willow. "We're leaving for Cypress Ridge tomorrow. Mom is still furious." "What's going on, Taylor?" "Shayton says you owe us money." I didn't reply. What could I say? Willow didn't need to know the truth. She was still living with them and was going to be spending the holidays with them. I didn't want to ruin her mood. The next day, I went to work, still without a plan. Thoughts of my impending homelessness kept me from concentrating, and I messed up 2 customer orders. "Taylor," Derek, my manager, called out to me when I made a mistake with a check for the 3rd time. "What's wrong with you today?" "I'm sorry." I rubbed my eyes. "I'm having housing problems. I'm being evicted." "Damn," Derek frowned. "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you have anywhere to go?" "I'm working on it," I forced a smile. "Listen," he lowered his voice. "I don't have a spare room, but my friend Noel has opened a small hostel on the outskirts. Maybe he can help you, at least for the time being." "A hostel?" I looked at him skeptically. "I'm not a tourist." "It's not a typical hostel," Derek smiled. "Noel, he's a little eccentric. His place is somewhere between a hostel and a commune. He often takes in people who have nowhere to go." "Sounds suspicious," I grimaced. "He's a normal guy," Derek assured me. "Just unusual. Here," he scribbled the address on a piece of paper. "Tell him I sent you." After work, I hesitated, but decided to check out the address anyway. I had nothing to lose. There were no other options. The Wanderers Rest Hostel was located in an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town. The building was in need of repair, but it looked cozy, with a large veranda covered in ivy and a spreading oak tree in the yard. I hesitantly rang the doorbell. A man of about 35 opened the door, with a mop of unruly red hair and thick-rimmed glasses. "Hi," he said, looking at me curiously. "How can I help you?" "I'm with Derek," I began. "My name is Taylor." He said you might be renting a room. "Ah, you're the Taylor. Derek called and told me you were coming. I'm Noel Caddy," he said, extending his hand. "Come in, I'll show you around." The house was larger than it appeared from the outside. Old wood paneling, high ceilings, and vintage furniture created an atmosphere of a bygone era. "There are 6 guest rooms," Noel explained as he led me down the hallway. 2 are currently occupied by students from the local college. The rest are sometimes used by tourists, but there aren't many at this time of year. "How much does it cost to stay here?" I asked cautiously. Noel stopped and looked at me. "Derek said you're in a difficult situation." I nodded, not wanting to go into details. "Listen." Noel scratched the back of his neck. "I need some help around the house. Cleaning, cooking, meeting guests. If you want, you can live here for free in exchange for your help. Say, 20 hours a week?" I looked at him in surprise. "You don't even know me. Why are you being so generous?" "Call it karma," he smiled. "Someone helped me when I was in trouble. Now it's my turn." I looked around suspiciously. "There's no catch, right? No cults, drugs, or weird rituals?" Noel laughed. "Just tea at 5 o'clock on Thursdays. And yes, I make everyone take their shoes off at the door. The floorboards are old." I couldn't believe my luck. It wasn't ideal, but it was much better than sleeping in my car. "When can I move in?" "Right now." Noel shrugged. "The room is ready." He showed me a small but cozy room on the 2nd floor with a view of the garden. An old bed, a chest of drawers, a desk, and an armchair by the window. Nothing extra, but everything I needed. "The bathroom is at the end of the hall, shared," Noel said. "You can use the kitchen any time. You can either buy your own food or join us for dinner. We all chip in." "Thank you," I said sincerely. "Really, thank you." "You're welcome," he smiled. "Welcome to the Wanderers' Refuge." That evening, I moved my things from my apartment. Zoe was upset that I was leaving, but she understood the situation. We agreed to stay in touch and meet up for coffee sometimes. The next morning, I was helping Noel prepare breakfast for the guests when my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a message from Willow. "We've arrived at Cypress Ridge. It's amazing here. Shaitan says he spent a ton of money to impress some business partners. He keeps saying it'll show you. What's going on, Taylor? Attached to the message was a photo of Willow standing in front of a luxurious hotel lobby with high ceilings and crystal chandeliers. She was smiling, but her eyes were filled with anxiety. I put my phone down without responding. So Shaitan had taken them to a more expensive hotel after all. Not because of business partners, of course. There were no partners there. He did it out of pride, out of a desire to prove that my stunt couldn't ruin their plans, that they could afford an even more expensive vacation, and that I was a nobody, incapable of affecting their lives. Bad news? Noel asked, noticing my expression. Family stuff, I replied evasively, cracking eggs into a bowl. Ah, he nodded understandingly. Is that why you're here on Thanksgiving Eve instead of with your family? Something like that. Do you want to talk about it? I was about to decline, as I usually did. I wasn't used to venting my problems to others. But something about Noel, his open face, his genuine interest, his complete lack of judgment, made me open up. And I told him everything, about my controlling mother, my manipulative stepfather, the years of neglect and emotional pressure, about how I was excluded from a family trip and my stupid revenge. You know what's funny? I finished. They went on vacation anyway, to an even more expensive hotel, and now Shaitan uses that to show me once again how worthless I am in their eyes. I couldn't even get proper revenge. Noel was silent for a long time, stirring the pancake batter. Maybe it's not about revenge, he finally said. It's about finally seeing the situation for what it is. What do you mean? Think about it, he said, pouring the batter into the pan. Your family didn't just not invite you for the holidays. They actively excluded you from their lives, and when you tried to fight back, they did everything they could to punish you. They threatened you, blackmailed you, took away your home. That's not just a toxic relationship, Taylor. That's abuse. I froze with the whisk in my hand. Abuse. That word had never crossed my mind when it came to my family. I thought abuse meant bruises, screaming, and physical violence. Not cold smiles, passive aggression, and constant methodical humiliation. But they're my family, I whispered. Family isn't just blood ties, Noel said gently. Family is people who love and support you, who want you to be happy. Are you sure your mother and stepfather want that? I was silent, digesting his words. Did they want me to be happy, or did they just need me to live up to their expectations, play the role assigned to me, and not cause any trouble? Thanksgiving morning at the Wanderer's Rest began with unexpected commotion. I woke up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and the sound of laughter coming from downstairs. The clock read only 8 in the morning, unusually early for a hostel where most of the guests preferred to lie in bed until late morning. Throwing on a robe, I went down to the kitchen and found an unusual scene. Noel, wearing an apron over his usual plaid shirt, was working his magic on a huge turkey. 2 assistants bustled around him, a young woman with bright blue hair cutting vegetables and an elderly man with a neatly trimmed gray beard kneading pie dough. "Ah, Taylor!" Noel exclaimed when he saw me. "Good morning. Meet Luna." He nodded toward the girl with blue hair. "And Oswald. They're joining us for the holiday." "Hi," Luna smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Noel said you're new here?" "Just since yesterday," I said, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot, feeling out of place. "I've been here for 3 weeks," Luna said, continuing to chop carrots, "and it's the coolest place I've ever lived." "I come here every year for Thanksgiving," Oswald added, without looking up from his dough. "For 5 years now. No fakery, no forced smiles around the family table. Just good food and good people." "Coffee?" Noel handed me a cup. "Thanks," I said, gratefully accepting the hot drink. I wasn't expecting such a busy morning. "Thanksgiving is a special day," Noel shrugged. "We always have a little celebration, nothing fancy, but everything traditional. Turkey, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie." "Want to help?" "Sure," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "What do you need?" "You can work on the turkey stuffing. The recipe is on the fridge." We spent the next few hours preparing the holiday dinner. Gradually, the kitchen became more crowded as other residents of the hostel arrived. Jasper and Elliot, students from the local college who hadn't gone home for the holidays. Vivian, a middle-aged woman who had recently divorced and was, in her words, rediscovering herself, and Roland, a shy programmer who worked remotely and preferred the company of the shelter dwellers, as they called themselves, to a noisy family holiday with his relatives. They were all so different that in any other situation they would probably never have met. But here, in this old kitchen, they worked as a well-oiled team, joking with each other and sharing stories. "So why aren't you with your family on a day like this?" Vivian asked me as we prepared sweet potatoes together. I hesitated with my answer. I didn't want to tell strangers about my family problems. "Complicated," I finally said. "Who doesn't?" Vivian nodded sympathetically. "I spent 3 years celebrating this holiday with my mother-in-law, who always found a way to hint that I wasn't good enough for her son, and then it turned out that her precious son was cheating on me with my cousin." "That's awful," I said, sincerely sympathizing with her. "The best thing that ever happened to me was my divorce." Vivian smiled. "Although it didn't seem like it at first. You know, sometimes you have to lose something to gain something better." Her words made me think. Maybe by losing my toxic family, I was actually gaining something more valuable? The freedom to be myself? The opportunity to surround myself with people who accept me for who I am? By 4 o'clock, the table in the large living room was set. A tablecloth, beautiful dishes, candles. Everything was just like in the best homes, only without the tension and pretense I always felt at family dinners with my mother and Shaitan. "Before we begin," Noel said when everyone was seated, "we have a tradition. Everyone says what they are thankful for this year. It doesn't have to be anything grand, just whatever comes to mind." "I'll start," Oswald volunteered. "I'm grateful for this house and for all of you. At 76, loneliness is the worst enemy. But here, I never feel alone." "I'm grateful for new beginnings," Vivian continued. "For the fact that at 43, I still have a chance to start my life with a clean slate." One by one, everyone shared their thoughts. Luna was grateful for the freedom of expression. Jasper was grateful for the scholarship that allowed him to study. Elliot was grateful for finding friends in college after years of loneliness at school. Roland was grateful for the opportunity to work from anywhere in the world. When it was my turn, I hesitated. I'm grateful for this moment," I finally said. "For losing one family, I may have found another." Noel smiled and raised his glass. "To finding family." We all raised our glasses, and at that moment the doorbell rang. "Are we expecting anyone else?" Elliot asked. "No," Noel frowned. "Everyone should be here." He went into the hallway, and a second later I heard his surprised exclamation. Taylor? Someone's here for you." Confused, I got up from the table and went to the door. Standing in the doorway with a small backpack in her hands and a tear-stained face was Willow. "Willow!" I couldn't believe my eyes. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at Cypress Ridge with Mom and Shaitan." "I ran away," she said quietly. "Can I come in?" I hugged my sister and led her inside. Noel tactfully excused himself and went back to the living room, leaving us alone in the hallway. "What happened?" I asked, looking at my sister's tear-stained face. "I couldn't stay there anymore." Willow wiped away her tears. "After Shaitan came back from your place, he and Mom did nothing but talk about how ungrateful you are, how you let the family down, how they did everything for you, and this is how you repay them." "And you decided to run away?" I still didn't understand. "How did you even find me?" "I wrote to Zoe," Willow confessed. "She said you'd moved into some hostel and gave me the address." "Taylor, what's going on? Did you really cancel their reservation at Golden Pines?" I sighed. I didn't want to lie to my sister. "Yes," I replied quietly. It was a stupid, impulsive thing to do. I was so angry after what Mom said. "What did she say?" Willow frowned. "She won't tell me that I'm no longer welcome in their home." I shrugged, trying to hide how much it hurt to say those words. "And then Shaitan came to me with an ultimatum. Either I pay them $3,000 for the new hotel, or I can forget about them." "3,000?" Willow's eyes widened. "But you don't have that kind of money." "Exactly. And then he had me evicted from my apartment." "No," Willow shook her head. That can't be. Mom wouldn't allow it. Mom was completely on his side, I said bitterly. She always has been. We stood in the hallway staring at each other. Willow looked lost, and I suddenly realized how much of a child she still was, despite her recent graduation from high school and acceptance to a prestigious university. Listen, I took her hands. My friends and I are about to have dinner. Would you like to join us? Then we can figure out what to do next. Willow nodded uncertainly, and I led her into the living room, where everyone was already seated at the table. Friends, this is my sister Willow, I introduced her. She decided to join us at the last minute. The more, the merrier, Noel exclaimed, moving over to make room for her. Sit down, Willow. We were just about to carve the turkey. To my surprise, the group accepted Willow as if she had always been part of their circle. No one asked awkward questions about her sudden appearance. Everyone just included her in the conversation, offered her food, and joked around. Gradually, the tension eased. She even began to smile, especially when Luna recounted her adventures hitchhiking across Europe. After dinner, when everyone had scattered around the living room with cups of coffee and slices of pie, Willow and I found ourselves alone on the porch. The evening was cool but not cold, and with the blankets Noel had offered, it was quite comfortable. They're nice people, Willow said, looking out the window at Luna, who was arguing animatedly with Jasper. Not like the simple people Mom always describes. Mom has a lot of misconceptions, I remarked. You know, Willow turned to me, I've always envied you. Me? I looked at her in surprise. What's there to envy? I'm a college dropout working in an electronics store, living in a hostel. You're free, Willow said simply. You've always done what you wanted, even if it made Mom and Shayton angry, and I've always been the one who lived up to expectations. Perfect grades, perfect behavior, a perfect future. Stanford, then law school, then a job at a prestigious firm. Everything's already planned out. Do you know what I want? What? I want to study marine biology, Willow confessed quietly. I've always loved the ocean, the underwater world, but Shayton said it was a frivolous career, that with that education I'd end up in poverty. And Mom agreed. I looked at my sister and saw myself 5 years ago, a young girl standing at a crossroads between her own dreams and her family's expectations. Why didn't you tell me before? What difference would it have made? Willow smiled sadly. You were in disgrace. Any advice you gave would have been taken as an attempt to ruin me too. So what now? I looked at my sister intently. You ran away from the resort, came here. What's your plan? I don't know, Willow admitted honestly. I just couldn't listen to them talking about you anymore. How Shayton brags about how he taught you a lesson. I wanted to talk to you, to find out the truth. And now that you know? Now. Willow thought for a moment. Now I'm not sure I want to go back. At least not yet. Can I stay with you for a few days? Of course. I hugged my sister. I'll talk to Noel. I'm sure he won't mind. We sat on the porch talking about the past, about our relationship with Mom, about how our family had changed since Shayton came along. For the first time in a long time, we talked like sisters, without worrying about what Mom or our stepfather would think. It was late in the evening when our conversation was interrupted by the sound of a car pulling up. The headlights illuminated the porch, and in their glow I recognized Shayton's silver Lexus. Oh no, Willow whispered. They found me. How? I looked at my sister in panic. I don't know. She looked scared. Maybe they tracked my phone? The car doors swung open and Mom and Shayton got out. Even in the dim light, I could see how angry they were. I'll talk to them. I stood up. You go inside. No. Willow stood up too. I'll stay with you. Mom and Shayton approached the porch. Mom looked tired and angry at the same time. Shayton just furious. Willow! Mom hissed through clenched teeth. Get in the car, now! No, Willow replied firmly. I'm staying with Taylor. Is this all you're doing? Shayton turned to me. Not only did you ruin our vacation, now you're turning Willow against us? I didn't do anything, I tried to say calmly. Willow came to me on her own. After you filled her head with your stories. Mom looked really angry. Willow, get in the car. We need to be back at the hotel by midnight. Mom, I'm not going. Willow crossed her arms over her chest. I know what you did to Taylor. I know you kicked her out of your apartment. That's cruel. Cruel? Shayton smirked. Cruel is canceling a family hotel reservation out of spite. Cruel is betraying your family. And kicking your daughter out of the house isn't betrayal? I asked quietly. You chose your own path, my mother replied coldly. No one kicked you out. You left on your own when you decided your dreams were more important than family values. Family values? I couldn't believe my ears. What values, Mom? Blind obedience? Giving up my own desires to satisfy your ambitions? Enough, Shayton cut in. Willow, get in the car. And you, he turned to me, we're not done yet. You still owe us money. I'm not going anywhere, Willow repeated, and Taylor doesn't owe you anything. Willow, my mother's voice trembled. If you don't get in the car right now, you can forget about Stanford. We won't pay for your education. What? Willow turned pale. Are you blackmailing me? I'm just explaining the consequences of your actions. My mother straightened up. The choice is yours. I saw Willow hesitate. Stanford was her dream, even if her major had been forced on her by Shayton. To give up such an opportunity. Go, I said quietly to my sister. Don't ruin your future because of me. But it's not right, Willow whispered. I know. But we'll figure something out. I'm not going anywhere. Willow looked at me desperately, then at Mom and Shayton. Okay, she finally said. I'll go with you, but, she turned to Mom, I'm coming to see Taylor, and you can't stop me. We'll see, my mother replied coldly. Now get in the car. Willow quickly hugged me and walked to the car. At the door, she turned around. I'll call you tomorrow. When Willow got into the car, my mother took a step toward the porch. I don't know what you told Willow, she said quietly, but you won't get away with this. You've almost destroyed our family with your antics, and I won't let you drag Willow down with you. I didn't say anything to her, I replied. She can see for herself. She's a child, my mother snapped. An impressionable, trusting child, and you're taking advantage of that. She's a grown woman, I argued. She has a right to her own opinions and her own decisions, just like me. We're leaving, Shayton interrupted, taking my mother by the arm. But this isn't over, Taylor. You still owe us money, and I intend to get it. I don't owe you anything, I said firmly. No money, no explanations, no apologies. You owe me, for years of manipulation, control, and neglect. But you know what? I forgive you. And I'm letting you go. Live your life, and I'll live mine. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but Shayton pulled her toward the car. They got in, and the silver Lexus drove off into the night, leaving me standing on the porch. I don't know how long I stood there, staring into the darkness, but at some point I felt someone's presence nearby. It was Noel. Are you okay? He asked, handing me a cup of hot tea. I don't know, I replied honestly, taking the cup. But I think I will be. Your sister is a brave girl, Noel remarked, and she loves you very much. I know, I smiled, and I love her too. Have you really forgiven them? Noel looked at me intently. Your mother and stepfather? I thought about it. I'm not sure forgiveness is the right word. It's more like, I let them go. I stopped expecting them to give me what they couldn't. I stopped hoping that someday I would be good enough for them. That's wise, Noel nodded. You know what I've noticed over the years working with people? The hardest thing isn't losing loved ones or breaking up relationships. The hardest thing is giving up our illusions about the people we love, admitting that they're not who we thought they were, and that they never will be, I added. Exactly, Noel smiled. But when we let go of those illusions, we make room for something real, for people who accept us for who we are. In the living room, Luna started playing the guitar, and the others joined in, singing an old song, a little out of tune, but with such sincere joy that it was impossible not to smile. Shall we go inside? Noel suggested. Usually after dinner is when the fun really starts. Oswald tells stories about his youth in the 60s, Luna shows card tricks, and Vivian can teach you how to salsa. Sounds tempting, I said, taking a sip of tea. But can I sit here a little longer? I need to think. Of course. Noel nodded understandingly. We'll wait for you when you're ready. He went into the house, and I stayed on the porch, listening to the laughter and music coming from inside. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of calm. It was as if a heavy burden I had been carrying for years had finally fallen from my shoulders. Yes, I didn't have a prestigious job. I didn't have a place of my own. I didn't have a clear plan for the future. But I had freedom. Freedom to be myself, to make choices, to build a life on my own terms. And maybe I had found people who could become my new family, not by blood, but by spirit. I finished my tea and stood up. It was time to join the celebration. My first real Thanksgiving in many years. A day when I could finally be grateful for what I had, instead of mourning what I would never have. When I entered the living room, Luna had just finished her song, and everyone applauded. When he saw me, Noel smiled and moved over to make room for me on the couch. "Here's our Taylor," he said, and there was something in his voice that made me feel at home. "Just in time for the next song." I sat down next to him, and when Luna started playing a new tune, I thought that maybe this strange, unplanned Thanksgiving was exactly what I needed. Not a perfect holiday with a perfect family, but a real moment with real people. People who saw me for who I was and accepted me anyway. And maybe that was the real meaning of the holiday, being thankful not for what could be, but for what already was. Right here, right now.